I would like to introduce Maria Scazzaro. She's somebody from our Living with BPD class who has agreed to share some of her experiences with you, and we're very honored to have her take this risk for us today.
Thank you, Valerie. Hi, hope everyone's doing well today. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I have a Bluetooth in my ear today because, as you know, with BPD, I'm very hypersensitive, so the music helps me to calm down and move forward with the presentation. So if you're wondering why I have this in, that's why. So let me just give you a few facts about myself. I am 28 years old. I have a Master's in Public Administration. I was diagnosed with BPD at the age of 19, but earlier on I was diagnosed with ADHD probably at around the age of 5. So these are just some few facts about myself so I can share my story with you. I went away to college at the age of 18 in Pennsylvania, and during that time I fell apart. I was away from my family, my friends, everything I knew. And at this point, my emotions began to become very overwhelming. I felt like I got hit by a truck because I had no idea what was going on, what I was feeling. I came home during my sophomore year, and during this time, I started stealing money from my parents, lying to them. This probably happened over the course of about a year. I was depressed, I was overeating. I lied a lot because I didn't know how to explain myself. I was lying, I didn't even understand why. I felt completely lost. During that time, I don't have, even if someone was to ask me today if I have any happy memories of my family, I don't have any up until about the last 6 months when my parents went to the workshop at Tara. I have a large family. I have 3 sisters, I'm the oldest, my mom and my dad. My role at that time was the family embarrassment. The daughter, they didn't know what to do with me. During the summers, I would usually fight with my sisters, so my parents would send me away to a friend's house for us to be separated because they didn't know how to deal with me or how to manage me. And for me, that was very painful because I longed to have a relationship with my sisters. I longed for that connection, but I couldn't have it, and I didn't understand why. I was a daughter that didn't fit in. When I would have tantrums or became overwhelmed with emotion and was cursing and yelling at my parents, my sisters and my parents perceived me as, this is your fault, you always ruin everything, please behave, we can't have people over. That was my life for the last, I would say, 27 years. Those were our family holidays. There was no happiness, there was no fun, it was hell, basically. I felt like, even though I had a family, I didn't know who they were. I felt like we were complete strangers. I felt like I was on the outside looking in. I would see them on the other side of a glass. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a window at a store. You can see the people inside, but you can't connect with them no matter how hard you try. I was desperate, and I just could not figure out how to break through it. And I longed for it. I did, and I just did not know how to get through. More than that, so I was confused about my family. I was confused about who I was. I was so desperate to be accepted and validated that I started to surround myself with people that were unhealthy, weren't helpful to me, unreliable. And like Valerie said, at that point, I didn't know that I couldn't interpret faces. So if you asked any of my friends or my parents, my famous question was, are you mad at me? Are you pissed? I thought it was always about me, constantly. And at this point, my parents put me in treatment at New York Presbyterian. They basically told me, pack your bags or get the hell out of our house and go to treatment, basically. So I made the choice that I was going to go to treatment because I wanted to get help. But when I went to treatment, what I was told was that DBT was a miracle cure. My parents the prime focus of treatment was me. It wasn't my parents. The therapist would ask if I wanted to include my parents in on treatment, but the focus was more me and what I could do, not really the role of how my family could support me. But they were such a huge part of it, and they were kind of excluded from the process. I always wondered if there was more than just DBT, if there was more to why am I this way? And I looked for it, but I didn't know what was missing or what to look for or what it was called. At that point, I had hit a wall. And at this point, I was in treatment. I was 19, had just gotten diagnosed, but I hit a wall. And I just did not know how to break through it. And then I met Valerie, which for me was the turning point of my life, which was probably last August. When I say turning point, meaning that was the milestone of my life where I was able to say, okay, I'm moving forward and I'm starting to understand who I am and why I'm doing this. And the first class that we went to, I had read all sorts of definitions in the DSM of borderline and, read the descriptions. I'm like, I don't have that, like, it can't be. But when she showed us this definition, for the first time, I was able to say, those are the 3 things in my life that I struggle with. I have this. Now I understand. I looked at this and I was like, this is so me, completely. Another thing that she had showed us that was really important for me was, I always thought that, I don't struggle as much as other people do. So this chart is the normal of what normal people feel on a daily basis. Joy, pain. The red is people with BPD, and the blue is people, like normal. When I saw joy, like normal people feel joy of 20%, to me is like, I don't even that's so foreign to me. I don't even know what that feels like to be that happy. I have no idea. And it's sad, but it's the truth. I don't know what that feels like. And a normal person without BPD, they don't normally feel shame. Me, I feel shame for me is like waking up. It's part of it. Brushing your teeth, it's just part of my life. So for me to look at that and I'm like, wow, I really am different and this is why. And so for the first time, she explained neurobiology. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not bad. My wires are just kind of crisscrossed. And that's okay. But that was never explained to me before, that I'm reacting to certain things a certain way, or I'm feeling a certain way because of the way my brain is wired. That was never explained to me. When it was, I was able to say, oh my God, now I understand. And even like my parents sitting in the audience, right now to me, my father looks like he's upset. But he's not. He's not upset, but to me, he does. So I was able to say, okay, I really stink at interpreting faces, but, now when that happens, I'm like, oh no, he's just mad. He's not mad. He's thinking about it. But for me, that's the automatic thought. And now I understand why, because of the way that my brain is wired. I'm super hypersensitive to smell, to sound. So every night when I was living at home, my parents would take out the garbage and would just kind of wait till the bag fills up. And I could not stand the smell. I said, Mom, please move the bag, get rid of it, get rid of the garbage. And so when I went to Tara, Valerie validated and said, you're so hypersensitive to smell. I had to take out my garbage every day in my apartment because it's so I can't function. I call it my sixth sense because it's so sensitive. I also didn't realize that just because it smelled bad to me, doesn't mean it smelled bad to them. They were like, oh, it's fine, we'll wait till it fills up. And I'm like, come on, I'm dying here. It smells so bad. A lot of times when I would interact with people, like Valerie was speaking about earlier, self-referential thinking, I thought it was always about me. Like I said with my dad right now, is he mad? Is it about me? Am I speaking too fast? Am I speaking too slow? Is it the way I'm dressed? Is it what I'm wearing? That's what's going through my head, even though it has nothing to do with that. I would attribute that how other people were speaking to me or how they were looking was against me. They didn't want to have anything to do with me. They're ashamed of me, even though it really had nothing to do with me at all. There were other factors that were in play. Maybe they had a bad day, at work, but in my brain that doesn't happen because of the way that I process things. It's self-referential. And people perceive things differently than I do. My dad's just watching the presentation, but to me, he looks mad at me. Tara has impacted my life on 3 different levels. The first is myself. Before Tara, I didn't know myself. I didn't understand. I didn't even think it was possible for me to understand myself. But now, I accept myself more than I ever did before because I now feel comfortable. My reactions don't shock or frighten me. Yeah, I have them, like she was speaking about earlier, extreme reactions where I don't even know what to do with them. But it doesn't frighten me as it did before. It's easier for me to be vulnerable with others. And I realize when thoughts are rising or I misinterpret something, it's the way I interpret things. My wires are crisscrossed. And that's okay. It's something I have to deal with and live with. And it's sad. And I grieve. But it's part of my life. And it sucks sometimes, but it's part of who I am. It's also impacted my relationships. I now actually have them. Before I would duck and escape. My next door neighbor would say to see me was like an eclipse. It was very rare. Because when I would see him, it was hi and bye. It was really brief because I was so worried about how he was going to react and I have to worry about how he's going to respond to me. It's so much work for me to be in a relationship. So I asked him before I did the presentation, I said, how am I different? And he said, well, we actually connect now. We actually talk about things that matter. You actually want to know how I'm doing. You sit down and have a conversation with me. Before, forget it, you would not see me. I was like in and out, very rare. And now with friends, if I'm having a hard day or something comes up, I can just say to them, look guys, like I really don't feel up for this. And that's okay. But I can now explain what I need to other people and be vulnerable with them. Without that, before I couldn't educate other people, I couldn't even educate myself. My parents went to a workshop at Tara, and before this, like I said, I didn't have a relationship with them. We existed. They were there, I was here. And previously, I always felt like they were fighting against me, but for the first time in my life, I feel like they're fighting for me. They stopped trying to fix me. My dad would constantly say, oh, you're great, you did good, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't need you to tell me how great I am. Just be with me in the struggle, just be here. Just be in the pain that I'm in. Just sit here with me. And they stopped trying to do that. I had the first happy holiday after my parents went to a Tara workshop. It was Thanksgiving. We drove down in the car. There was so much traffic. And for me, traffic is very stressful. So I began to cry and become overwhelmed. I was waiting for my parents to criticize me, as they usually do. What's wrong with you? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Oh my God, we have to go home. But they didn't. And my mom was like, what do you need? And I just sat there and was like, is she okay? Like, what's wrong with her? And I said, you know what? I said, can we drop Dad off and can we go to a mall and just kind of sit there and, relax and let me debrief? And we did that. And it was really helpful. My mom walked around the store with me and smelled the flowers. And for me, scent is really helpful in shifting my emotion. So we did that. And even though I cried and I was dysregulated, my mom was with me. And for me, that made it a happy holiday because I could just be me. I didn't have to act. I could just be myself. And for me, that's priceless. I now also enjoy and spend time with my sisters. I have a relationship with them. Before, I didn't have one. Tara has changed my life. And here's a picture of my family and my 4 sisters. And in these pictures, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy in these pictures, but now I can tell you that I look forward to holidays with my family because my parents and my sisters know how to support me and they know what I need, predictability, and it makes all the difference. So going forward, I hope that what I've said here today will help whoever you know or someone else with BPD. But don't give up on them. And I think for me, learning about the neurobiology with what Tara did enhanced my treatment, and it made it. You can't do one without the other. It's like peanut butter and jelly. You can't have the peanut butter without the jelly. You need both. And it saved my life. It did, and I'm so thankful. Thank you.
I can't thank Maria enough for doing that. So Maria, you've just survived major stress. Bravo. But we're not through yet. We have somebody